All right, welcome back to Shop and Ball Week 7 Picks Against the Spread episode for the 2021 NFL season. I am Aaron, and as per usual, I am joined by Mr. John Harris today. Went through some technical difficulties, so hopefully we can push through here for this episode. While I switch things up, John, how are you? How you been?
I'm doing good. As you know, everyone probably knows at this point the NBA started back up. I'm a Celtics fan, and last night the Celtics went to war with the Knicks. One of the more entertaining basketball games I've watched in a really long time. So it's a good day to be a sports fan with the NFL, NBA is back. It's just a fun time.
Yep, my Spurs won, so that is good for me. But anyways, like this is for the NFL episode, and we're gonna dive right into the picks here. We made our Thursday picks last episode, and in case you missed that, I'll just mention it right now as the spreadsheet takes a second here. John picked Cleveland. So by the way, spread was Cleveland at Cleveland, favored by 3.5 over Denver. So basically, once again, if you don't know spreads, Cleveland has to win by 4 or more for John to be correct. He picked Cleveland, but if Denver wins or loses by 3 or less, I win because I picked Denver. So that is actually one of our few differences of the week. This week, as you all will see, kind of, I won't say a chalky week, but man, all I'll say is like typically the afternoon games have been very good. And just by looking at the spreads, they are not going to be very good this week. So if you're like me and usually Sundays are your day, maybe surprise your significant other and spend that afternoon with them after after the early games because these other ones might not be worth watching. But anyways, so yeah, we like I mentioned went over the Thursday nighter. Now we're gonna dive into the Sunday game. Luckily, no London games this week. First one on the docket is my Green Bay Packers at Green Bay. They are favored by 7.5, hosting the Washington football team. Side note, Green Bay is wearing some retro jerseys. We're just wearing yellow helmets and green, literally just green tops. Like it's a typical plain Green Bay stuff. Regardless, Green Bay favored by 7.5 against Washington. John, who are you going with here?
Uh, I mean, Green Bay's offense combined with Washington's defense that allows the league's most points so far. I can't see a way in which Taylor Heineke and that offense is able to keep up with Aaron Rodgers. I mean, unless their defense can somehow pull a full 180 and reverse course and have an amazing week, I think this one could get out of hand pretty quick. So I'm taking Green Bay. I wouldn't be surprised if this is like a 14 point margin of victory.
Yeah, I'm obviously going with Green Bay. Like it's funny. This is one of those matchups where on paper before the beginning of the year, I'd be like, man, I'm a little scared because they got a good run game, good defense, but now we're here, totally different. Yeah, especially with some of the injuries Washington has. I believe Antonio Gibson did return to practice today, so that's good news. But he hasn't been, I would say, as good nor as dominant as he was last year, and maybe that's because it might be because Taylor Heineke's behind center and such like that, and they're losing linemen left and right. But yeah, like John mentioned, I'm not worried about the Packer offense against the Washington defense. And then on the flip side too, Packer defense, even though we've lost Jair and Zadarius Smith, and I think Preston's been in and out, and same with Rashawn Gary. We just signed Whitney Merciless, but the defense has been solid under Joe Barry. It hasn't, I was afraid it was going to completely break apart, and this was going to be all on Rodgers and the offense at this point, but it's not so. So good for my Packers and good on Joe Barry. Really been making that defense better. So regardless, yeah, we're both going Green Bay there. No shock. Now going on to an AFC matchup. Kansas City Chiefs, they are favored by 5.5 going to the Tennessee Titans. John, are you going with Mahomes or King Henry here?
So I don't know about you. This felt like the hardest game out of every game this week.
It was one of the tougher ones for me.
Just because, first off, I could see Tennessee winning because King Henry and that offense against this Chiefs defense. I mean, I think that they could really dominate time possession if they wanted to. But on the flip side, the way the Titans play football, that'd beat a lot of teams in the NFL. But the Chiefs, even in the midst of all their struggles, are still a team that can score 30 points while losing time of possession by a lot. So they don't need a lot to score. And it doesn't help for the Titans that Caleb Farley looks like he tore his ACL, and then I believe Christian Fulton is his name, other corner that they
Yeah.
drafted a few years ago. He's also going to be out this week. So two of their, top four corners are gone. And so I don't know who's going to be able to stop Tyreek Hill, on that defense. So I'm going to the Chiefs here just because I believe in the Titans offense to put up points. I don't know if they can keep up with the pace that Kansas City is going to, be operating at.
Yeah, like you mentioned, it was tough because like so far, if there's been a revenge game against Kansas City, Buffalo, Baltimore, they've got the team that's wanted revenge.
Chargers, too.
Chargers, yeah, especially Chargers too, if you want to count. Yeah, they've all gotten their revenge. So it feels like it's tough because there's that. I don't want to call it. It's not really analytical, but that's not really analysis. But you know what I mean. There's that narrative where you're like,
Right.
man, like, is it time for Tennessee to get their revenge too? Is it just Kansas City's due, or? But then there's also like you mentioned everything you mentioned. Obviously, I think Kansas City's defense looked a little bit better last week. They had some sort of game plan as to what they wanted to take away and do, and they were actually able to take away. Took away the run game of Washington first, and then had some creative stuff on the back end. But yeah, Derrick Henry scares me. But regardless, I'm following basically what you said is the reason why I'm going Kansas City. They turned the ball 3 times early last game, and they were still up. I think at half. I think it was 21-13 or something, or maybe regardless. This is a Chiefs offense, explosive, and with Kelsey able to work the short stuff, and they have a solid run game. They've been more patient with that in recent weeks, and especially with the Tennessee's defensive woes, they've been okay. But now, like you mentioned a lot, lose 2 very key pieces in the secondary. I'm going with Kansas City here, but yeah, this will be probably one of the better games of the week right here. So yeah, we both went Kansas City there. And
I will add
go ahead.
just real quick that basically the way I feel like this game is going to pan out is the Titans, they have to score every time they touch the ball because of how, like, I don't know. I feel like the Titans defense, they haven't been terrible. They haven't been so noteworthy that everyone is pointing them out. But we just saw against the Bills, like Josh Allen and the Bills probably should have put up like 40 something points on them. There was a few missed opportunities, and even in the midst of that, they put up 34. So, I feel like it's going to be a similar style of game. And who do you trust to be able to put the ball in the end zone more? Patrick Mahomes that offense or Derrick Henry and his. That's nothing against Derrick Henry. It's just that if they can stop Derrick Henry on first and second down, make it a third and long, all of a sudden that's in Kansas City's favor.
I'm trying to see if Chris Jones will be back. Do not play this video. ESPN, don't you dare. Where's the injury report? Sorry. Trey Smith out. So maybe Chris Jones will be active. He's not on the injury report. Anyways, so I'm assuming I'm going regardless. They have Derek Nottie and Jaron Reed in the middle, but especially if Chris Jones is there, I think that they'll find ways to slow down Derrick Henry in that offense because they've done it before. I believe that year they won the Super Bowl. I think Chris Jones only played he was coming off I forgot what kind of leg injury, but he was only playing third downs basically that game, and they were able to hold that offense. So, all right, but yeah, we'll definitely see what happens there in regards to that one. That'll be a good game to keep an eye on. But going on to a game I don't think many people will be keeping an eye on unless you're a fan of these two teams on the East Coast. The Atlanta Falcons, they are favored by 2.5. I think it's the first time Atlanta's been favored all year. I'll go back and check in a second. But they're favored by 2.5, traveling to the Miami Dolphins. A lot of things going on with Miami, especially in the past few days. Rumors that they were pushing to trade for Deshaun Watson, and then there's rumors that they weren't. So those matriculated back. But regardless, a Dolphin team that needs a win, 1-5, to keep their season alive, basically. Because if they lose here, I think, it's basically game over. But John, what are your thoughts in regards to this one, and who's gonna end up winning / covering the spread?
I'm gonna take Atlanta. I also think this game could easily turn into a shootout, and my money would be on Matt Ryan and the experience that he has to be able to come out and cover in this one. I don't know the status of Xavier Howard and Byron Jones after last week. I don't know if you could pull that injury report up.
I'll pull it up real quick.
But even if they're playing, I think that Kyle Pitts presents a pretty big mismatch for them. He's been starting to get some stuff going, and I think that Calvin Ridley, I think he should have a big week after coming back from missing time due to personal issues. I don't know. Ultimately, I'm just betting on Matt Ryan and his experience. It's 2 bad teams. Miami just lost to Jacksonville, so maybe there's some desperation there. But I just think there's too many distractions around this Miami team right now. All these rumors that they're going to go out and get Deshaun Watson and just everything that's going on. I don't know. I don't know how Tua feels. I imagine maybe he's probably tuning it out. I know that there's been, I don't know how in tune you've been with the rumors, but thought like it would be a 3-team trade where Tua gets sent to Washington or Denver, all this crazy stuff. And ultimately, I don't know. I don't have a lot of faith in Miami as a whole. They're dealing with injuries too. Will Fuller's still out. The corners. Do you have the updated status on the corners?
So they haven't mentioned a questionable or anything. Just looking off their injury report off the Dolphins website. It shows Xavier and Byron. They both have had limited practices yesterday and today. That's Wednesday and Thursday. For those watching, when this actually goes live. So yeah, not really sure how to gauge that, but they've both been practicing in limited fashion.
Okay, well, regardless, I mean, if they play, that could be pretty game changing because that's going to present a lot tougher of an opportunity for a guy like Calvin Ridley. But ultimately, like I said, I think I'm just going to go with the experience of Matt Ryan and what could be a battle of two bad teams.
So I'm going with a little bit, like we mentioned a few weeks ago, desperation. I think, especially for Brian Flores and the gang, I think at least Miami will keep it close, but basically at 2 points, you're picking who's going to win. I think Miami will win unless it's a heartbreaker. It's just, I think, Brian Flores maybe, have to, not want to say reshuffle, but just get new ideas on defense. Been a little bit too man heavy the past few weeks, especially last week with no Xavier Howard and Byron Jones. And like you mentioned, if they're both there, that'll definitely help. And I just imagine this offense will be better. I mean, last week they were pretty good, and Jacksonville still hung around. It was like the 1 week where the defense didn't come through for sure. I would definitely say. And I just, especially, I think Brian Flores thinking he has to know his job's kind of on the line. Like, not only, I know this has been rumors with Tua, but most front offices, when they go and get a fancy new quarterback, they're going to want, a fancy new coach to go with it. And especially, like we mentioned last episode, with the revolving door offensive corners they've had already, maybe that another reason to bring in Deshaun Watson is to say, hey, we'll get a better offensive coordinator along with getting rid of, or a coach that's an offensive coach, something like that. So yeah, this is it for Brian Flores. I don't think he should. Should be it. But I'm just saying, like, it just feels like with the narrative out there in Miami that this might be his last year. So I'm going Miami here at home, factored into for me. But it'll be tough because they're just coming off the London game last week. So I wouldn't be shocked if I'm wrong there. But keeping it in Miami's division, we're going on to New England, where the Patriots are at home, and they are favored by 6.5. They're hosting my guy, Zach Wilson, and the New York Jets. John, do you think the Jets can pull one out here, or is it going to be New England getting their first home win, which is kind of shocking to say, of the season?
I think this is a little bit of a trap game. I feel like people are going to feel like it's obviously New England. Last time the Jets played them, it was pretty rough for Zach Wilson. But I think Zach Wilson has started to figure a little bit more out about the NFL. I think that because they've already played the Patriots, he's probably going to be a little bit more ready. I'm still worried because it is the Jets, but I'm going to take the risky pick here and say that the Jets, they cover. I don't know if they're going to win, but I'm going to say they cover. And it has been a little wild that, the Patriots don't really have the home field advantage, at least so far based on their record. They have been playing some tough teams at home like Tampa, Dallas.
Yeah, that's just unfortunate.
Yeah, so it's, there is context there. The Jets are not in that level. But ultimately, I think this one's going to be a close one. This is the one that I feel like I could be dead wrong on. So I'm not confident in this.
I'm going New England. As much as I like Zach Wilson, not a lot of talent there. There's no real run game, and that's the Mike. Is it Mike? I always forget Matt LaFleur's brother. Might be Mike. Regardless, the other younger LaFleur likes, it runs the same system, the Kyle Shanahan, Matt LaFleur system, where they're going to want to run the ball. And then build off the play action. Well, Jets haven't really been able to run the ball, and I think New England pretty much has a good idea of that system. I mean, Kyle Shanahan. Bill Belichick, facing the Super Bowl against Kyle Shanahan and them, and he saw it last year with Kyle Shanahan as well. And obviously, we can all agree this Jet team is not nearly as good as that San Francisco team. And there was that stat I believe you mentioned last time they played. Bill Belichick has a great record against rookie quarterbacks, and I feel like he'll have a few more tricks up his sleeve for Zach Wilson, and especially this being at New England won't help that offense either. So I'm going New England here to win and cover. As much as I love Zach Wilson, it's just tough sledding, man. It's just he's gonna have to take his licks this year. But Mac Jones has been very good at least. He hasn't been like amazing, but he's been playing very well. So going with the New England Patriots there. So that's one of our few differences of the week. Now going on to a NFC matchup here, aka the David Gettleman Bowl, because he left Carolina, who is the favorite. So Carolina's favored by 2.5, going to the New York Jets to MetLife Stadium. John, who do you have here in the Gettleman Bowl?
I'm gonna take the Giants here in this one. I think that Sam Darnold has started to come back to earth a little bit. He's not looking too good under pressure, and I don't think that's entirely his fault. Their offensive line just isn't very good. They have Taylor Moton, but that's kind of it. And so I wouldn't be surprised if the Giants' defensive line with Leonard Williams is able to get some pressure on him and force some bad throws. Um, I don't really have a whole lot of faith in Daniel Jones offensively, but I think Devontae Booker could have some success in this one. We've seen Carolina. Their defense has also sort of come back to earth the last few weeks, allowing some, solid rushing totals against them. So, yeah, I'm going to take the Giants here. I'm not I'm not sold on this one either because 2.5 that's not massive. A field goal could win this one, but I think the last two times that these teams have played, which I don't know how long ago it was, but they were both really close games, and I saw that Graham Gano actually hit game winners both times. Now in those games he was on the Panthers side, now he's on the Giants side, so maybe the Graham Gano I don't know, prophecy comes and he gets revenge and he wins it again, but for the other team.
About to say there's a few revenge games this week. The one right now, Case Keenum got the start. He was in Denver for a short while. Now I mentioned Dave Gilman. Now you mentioned Graham Gano. So there's a little bit of vengeance going around. And Sam Darnold back in New York because actually in New York I know he played the Jets early in the season, but that was in Carolina. So he's so that's interesting. But in regards to my pick, I'm going Carolina. I think their defense it kept them in a lot of games. Came up with a big score at the end of last week, and I just, especially with I think Andrew Thomas went on IR for the Giants, and he was actually starting to have a good year. And I just think that this Panthers front seven can definitely wreak some havoc and cause some issues for Daniel Jones, and also Kadarius Toney out too. So I'm not sure what they really have receiving wise. I believe Sterling Shepard's available.
Sterling Shepard's
Playing, but no, I think Kenny Galladay is also out as well or banged up. And no offense to Evan Ingram, maybe a little bit of offense, but he hasn't really been the consistent tight end that they've needed. And Kyle Rudolph's kind of at the end of his career right now, so I just don't see many difference makers there. And also I think Stephon Gilmore might be active for this game too. I know he just started practicing with them, but regardless, going Carolina here. I just gotta imagine that once again they're also kind of in the same boat, kind of like Miami, where it's like, man, they have to get a win here to stay in the playoff race, or else they're gonna be behind because Tampa Bay's ahead and New Orleans is quietly chugging along, and then there's all the other NFC teams, the whole NFC West basically minus Seattle at this point, and Green Bay and them. So the playoff race is going to be tough. So they got to get this one. So going Carolina here to win and cover. So one of our few differences. And going to this game, which I want to get your input once after I mention the spread. But at Baltimore Ravens are favored by 6.5, hosting the Cincinnati Bengals. A little surprised by the spread. I thought that was a little bit big, but I always forget basically 3 points is given to you for the home team. So on neutral field, it'll probably be like a 3.5 point spread. But regardless, who are you going here with this matchup? This will be a interesting one.
Well, first off, I think they probably made the spread what it is because of what happened with the Chargers. I mean, that's a high-powered offense. I would say most people are probably under the belief that Justin Herbert is better than Joe Burrow as of right now, and so all that and what that defense is able to do to the Chargers, I think that could wake a lot of people up. But I'm going to go with the Bengals here. I think there's even a chance they could win this game. Um, I'm not going to say the Ravens are going to like overlook them, but I think the Bengals just really haven't been in the Ravens class for such a long time that they haven't really had to worry about anything the Bengals are ever doing. But Joe Burrow this year is one of the best quarterbacks under pressure, especially in a blitz heavy scheme that the Ravens are going to be running. I think Joe Burrow has the answers. I think that he and Tyler Boyd could really get things working because we've seen in other weeks this Ravens secondary, although they have Marlon Humphrey, their other corners are easy to attack, and so I think that with the amount of receiving options that Joe Burrow in this offense has, I think we could see some Jamar Chase, some T. Higgins, and some Tyler Boyd all getting involved in this one, all having a good day. But to me, Tyler Boyd is the key option because Joe Burrow's getting the ball out fast, and when you're facing the blitz, there's going to be a lot of man coverage, and Tyler Boyd's a really talented receiver. And like I said, Joe Burrow, really good under pressure this year facing the blitz. So I'm going to take the Bengals here. It scares me because of what we saw last week with with the Chargers, but I don't know. I just feel like the Bengals have sort of this perfect recipe to defeat the Ravens and their defense.
Yeah, it does scare me because remember last year too. I think was this the game Joe Burrow got hurt? Regardless, I know they got blown out one time by Baltimore. It was a pretty bad game. It was like 31 to something.
Hurt against Washington.
Washington. I'm sorry. Yeah, I forgot. No, number one, number two picks.
A lot of people get hurt when they play Washington.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm going Cincinnati here with you. I think their O-line's been solid, and although Marlon Humphrey's, like we mentioned, top 5 corner, he's probably going to be shouting Jamar Chase. Beauty of the Bengals this year is they still have Tyler Boyd, they still have T. Higgins. Joe Mixon's been having a good year, running the ball and receiving the ball as well. And CJ Uzuma has been pretty well too. And the Cincinnati defense has been solid. It's not been, like amazing or terrible. It's been right in the middle, which isn't too bad. And I think that they'll be able to slow down Lamar in that offense. It does scare me because Lamar has been clicking in the passing game recently. But I imagine regardless, Cincinnati's going to keep this one close. It's a very key divisional game, and I expect him to throw the kitchen sink out at Baltimore per se. So I am going Cincinnati as well with John. And then now we're going to head over to the next one, which is going to be our last difference of the week. And this is the start of the afternoon games. The Las Vegas Raiders at the Death Star, a.k.a. Las Vegas. They are favored by 3.5. Sorry, I almost read the wrong line. They are favored by 3.5, hosting the Philadelphia Eagles and Jalen Hurts. John, who do you got in this matchup and why?
I'm going to take the Raiders here. I think that Derek Carr, he's just doing really well. We've seen the Eagles, against Dallas, against Kansas City. They give up a lot of points against some of these really good offenses. I'm not going to say that the Raiders are in that sort of caliber, but I think they have the weapons and the recipe to put up a lot of points against Philly. They can attack them on the ground. Josh Jacobs is going to be playing. Kenyon Drake has been having some success. And then Darren Waller, Henry Ruggs, I think could, be a factor in this one. Ultimately, I just think the Raiders are going to put up a lot more points than I am comfortable, with believing Jalen Hurts can keep up. I'm going to take the Raiders. I might be biased because I'm just not a believer in Philadelphia. I'm taking the Raiders.
This was low-key one of the tougher picks for me. But I went Philly. I think they'll keep it close or even win this game. I know last week was an emotional win for the Raiders. But, obviously this week they're coming down off that. And Philly's D-line's pretty good. And, Joey Bosa, I know there's a little bit of credibility Joey Bosa said about pressure, but that's really any quarterback. Like any quarterback, when you get pressure on them, like they're going to be look a little, more towards the defensive end's way every time the ball snapped. Just kind of nature. No one wants to get hit. And this is still a very good Philadelphia front four, especially Javon Hargrave and Fletcher Cox in the middle. And I would say Raiders have had a tough time in the middle also. Been shuffling some guys around there. And still kind of running that John Grunish offense where a little bit, they like to get the run game going and build off that. And I just don't think that they'll be able to get into a rhythm, at least as quickly as they want to here. And then on the other side, Philly's still got a good O-line. They're going to, I would hope that they run the ball more with Miles Sanders. I dropped him in that league. I don't know if I mentioned this before. I was done with it. I'm not dealing with that.
Yeah, it worries me that he still won't get involved, and he should be in this week specifically.
Yeah, but Jalen Hurts has been good. He showed that last week, even though for the most part, it wasn't really a game. They were able to move the ball here and there, and I think obviously that was Tampa Bay's defense. I think going off that, coming to the Raiders' defense will be kind of like a breath of fresh air. So, I'm going with Philly here to keep it close and or win. I got it. I like their fronts on both ends, and I think they'll be able to make a difference here. So, going there. Like I said, last difference for us from here on out will be pretty much the same, maybe different reasoning as to why. And here begins the strand of the trio of games where it was pretty much easy. First one is LA Rams at SoFi Stadium in LA. They are favored by 15.5 points, hosting Jared Goff, another revenge game. Matt Stafford revenge game, Jared Goff revenge game here. So, John, is there any way you think Jared Goff and the gang and Detroit can keep it close?
No. I don't know what Detroit's gonna really bring offensively. Even Dan Campbell has started to say, like, listen, we need some more out of Jared, and just being straight up. And you got to agree, because with that amount of money that he's getting paid on that contract, he's got to be better. But we know what Jared Goff is. I just don't think he's going to be able to do much against Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, everything that they present, especially with the lack of receiving options that they really have. And on the other side, just the way that the whole trade went down and Sean McVay getting Stafford. And I don't know, McVay seems like he seems like the kind of guy that would really want to just blow Jared Goff out. Like, even though it's not really Jared's fault, like he didn't, he just played. He didn't tell them that they had to keep him and pay him all that money.
Yeah.
That's what they offered him, and he took the deal, So I feel like McVay, there's going to be some personal element for him to where he just wants to just destroy Jared Goff and really let Stafford let things rip. So I think this is going to be a big day for the Rams offense.
Yeah, I'm right with you. That was one of my reasonings. Was I just feel like McVay is gonna want to kind of stick it to Jared Goff a little bit, be like, hey, see what my offense can do with a good quarterback. And obviously, but I think the bigger headline here would be Matthew Stafford gonna want to really put it up against the Lions. I know he probably has love for Detroit and the years there, but maybe a little bit of the saltiness will come out and be like, man, after Calvin Johnson, y'all didn't give me anything. Didn't have me a run game for years or offensive line or a defense. What were y'all doing? Now I'm going to show you what I can do with all that here in LA. So, yeah, I'm right with you. I expect the LA Rams to win and cover here. So give me 1 second and we'll be... Oh. Alrighty, so that is that one. Now going on to the next game. Arizona Cardinals at Arizona. They are favored by 17.5, hosting the Houston Texans. Still Davis Mills at the helm there. J.J. Watt revenge game / DeAndre Hopkins here for the Cardinals side. So, John, do you think that they'll get their revenge and cover the spread?
Yeah, this one, really the only thought I put into it was thinking back when I picked them against Buffalo. I'm not doing that again. I'm not picking the Texans. I'm taking the Cardinals. That's really the only reasoning I have. I don't think the spread is this high for a reason. The Cardinals are a really good team. Haven't really seen any team been able to slow them down yet. I don't expect the Texans to be able to be that team. And yeah, this might be a little more personal for Hopkins and J.J. Watt. And with the young sort of team that they are, Cliff Kingsbury also sort of a similar coach to where I think he would want to get those guys specifically involved in this game just because he might know that it means more to them. So yeah, I would look for them to have a big day as well. And yeah, I'm just not gonna pick the Texans again after what Buffalo was able to do with this big of a spread too.
Yeah, Arizona's been blowing everybody out, and I don't think DeAndre Hopkins will be he might want to, but now that Bill O'Brien's not there, and most of the management there, the revenge factor may not be, the saltiness may not be as fresh with him as it is with JJ. JJ just left there too. and it's not in Houston. So I think that helps that, there won't be like a tribute video that they can kind of soften them up with, maybe just straight up in Arizona. But yeah, and especially with Kingsbury back, I expect the Cardinals to take care of business here, especially with Davis Mills at quarterback. No offense, Davis, but yeah, just this Houston team, just they are who we thought they were, which is they stink. So
Yeah.
let's just be real about that. So sorry, Houston fans, but like I said, may want to do something else during this game. Maybe have something else going on. Just have this game on in the background. But going on to the next one, at Tampa Bay Buccaneers at Tampa. They are favored by 12.5, hosting the Chicago Bears. John, who do you have here and why? And actually, I might change my pick, but go ahead.
This one was another tough one. Because 12.5 is a big spread, and I'm gonna pick the Bears, and it might be crazy because maybe I'm just a foolish Justin Fields believer, but I think the secondary for the Buccaneers is a lot weaker than people realize. They're dealing with a lot of injuries. I'm banking on the fact that I think this could be a Justin Fields coming out game, just with the secondary that they do have. I think that Allen Robinson could get really involved in this one too. I'm not going to say they're going to win, but I think they can keep it close. And ultimately, the most comfortable part I have in this is I think that the Bears and their defense can get some things going, especially after they played them last year. I believe the Bears won. They don't have Kyle Fuller in this one, and he was a very key factor in that game. He forced a fumble that really. I think it gave them field position like inside the 30, so they had a really easy position to score. But overall, the Bears defense was ready for what Tom Brady and that offense, was going to bring out. It was early last year, so the Buccaneers are definitely a very different team. But I still think they could have some success. I think that Khalil Mack, he was able to, hit Tom Brady a few times. I think they'll move him around, try to get him involved as well. So taking the Bears to keep it close, I don't think they're going to win. But 12.5 just feels a little big.
All right, so I'm going with Tampa here to win and cover. The more I think about it, the Bears' offense, it's predicated on getting the run game going. Tampa's the best run defense in the league right now. It's just tough to like we mentioned before. Like teams like Dallas just said, "Screw it, we're not even going to try it." After the first half, we're just going to air it out. And we saw what New England had the same approach.
They were even worse. They literally ran it like 8 times as a team.
Yeah. So, and even though Justin Fields does, add more juice to the run game, just the extra runner, I don't think they'll have much effect. And then I'm just not. This isn't as much hate on Justin Fields. Once again, just more on Matt Nagy and the pass offense. It's just not very creative and aggressive, and especially if the run game can't get going, the play action definitely won't get going for them. And I just think, especially people have been ragging on the Bears O-line, which I think the interior has been okay, especially in recent weeks, but it's the tackles that have been the issue, and especially against the Bucs with all the the litany of guys they can throw at you on the edge. I think that's where they'll win this game, especially if they get ahead early. And in regards to last year, I just think Tampa's found their identity in offense. They know what they want to do, as opposed to, and that was also a Thursday night game, I believe, too. Or I think it was, right. I know it was a night game. I'm pretty sure it was a Thursday.
Prime time game. I don't know.
I think it was Thursday. It was just one of those Thursday games are always freaking weird, especially last year when there's no fans or limited fans as well. So I'm going Tampa Bay here. I think that they'll win and cover. I just think that they're on a roll, and I think that that they have a mission in sight, which is the 1 seed. So that is my pick there. That is the last difference of the week for us. Now going to the other primetime games, the Sunday nighter, the San Francisco 49ers at home. They are favored by 4.5, hosting the Indianapolis Colts. John, who do you got here and why? Oh, DeForest Buckner revenge game.
A lot of revenge games this week. I'm going to take the Colts. I feel like the first, stretch of games, I was sort of underrating the Colts and this team. And I think there was just because of that start that they had at the year, it felt like, wow, maybe this Colts team isn't really, who they were last year. Maybe it was a fluke, but I think they've started to get back to who they are, their identity. Jonathan Taylor is getting involved. And so I think that, the Colts, I think this is a winnable game for them. I think it's another day where I expect the run game to be big for them. I don't think that Carson Wentz is necessarily going to like shred this Niners team, but they still have a lot of injuries along that secondary, and they haven't done much to address it. So I think that they can have success. Plus, T.Y. Hilton's back. I think he's still a little bit questionable for the game, but like he's there. Michael Pittman's there. They have options. So I'm going to go with the Colts here. Also, I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to get out of the Niners offensively with just Ayuk's, his whole situation, and Jimmy G and Trey Lance have both been dealing with injury. I think Trey Lance is like already officially out. Jimmy G looks like he's probably going to be playing in this one. I don't know. Just, I feel safer with the Colts.
Yeah, and the Colts have been on a roll. I know they lost that tough game against Baltimore where they just seem to run out of gas defensively. But like we mentioned, I think they've been increasing the volume of the run game, getting Jonathan Taylor more involved. They could, I think he's questionable, but I think they could be getting back Quentin Nelson, which will help the run game. And Carson Wentz has been better the past 2 weeks too. I think we forget, because he ran the Frank Reich system a couple of years ago doesn't mean he's going to come back and get it like that. And also he missed time with the foot injury too, so probably shouldn't be too surprised it took him a few weeks to kind of get going there. It does suck that they lost Paris Campbell because he's been their best deep threat, but T.Y.'s, if he's healthy, then I think he can easily do that. But yeah, I'm going with the Colts here too. I just think, especially since San Francisco, they like to sit in the Seattle cover 3, which is fine, but they just don't have the same corners and just talent level overall where they can get away with that. And I think Frank Reich will take advantage, and Carson Wentz. So regardless, I was very surprised San Francisco was favored as much as they were. So even if the Colts don't win, I think it will be a close game nonetheless. So that is that. And now going to the Monday nighter, the New Orleans Saints off their bye week. They are favored by 4.5. They're going to Seattle to play Geno Smith in the game off their. They played Sunday night off their Sunday night loss to Pittsburgh. John, who do you got here in this matchup?
I'm going to take the Saints. I think coming off a bye week, they should be fresh, ready to go. Michael Thomas still isn't back. Some people expected that he might be able to. It looks like he's still a few weeks away. But I think I was just encouraged with what I saw from the Saints before the bye week, with finally Alvin Kamara getting involved in the receiving game. It felt like they were kind of getting back to their roots, their identity. And I think coming off a bye week, getting 2 weeks to prepare for Geno Smith and the Seattle team, I think it could be a tough day for Seattle. Also, I mean, like I say this every week, Seattle's defense just isn't very good. They've been able to slow down some of these opposing offenses, like the Rams. It took them a while to get going. The Steelers really never got anything going. I think that although Jameis has been a little inconsistent this year, I would expect this offense to have far more success against the Seattle defense than any of those, just because of Sean Payton, the ability of Alvin Kamara to just do work on the ground and with the short game. I'm taking the Saints here. I just, if Russell Wilson was in this game, it might be different, but he's not.
Yeah, I'm going Saints as well. I have to kind of lead off with the defense because, the defense is not very good, or not good at all, really, for Seattle. And Saints 2 weeks of preparation. And I know last week against Pittsburgh, they kind of held them down, but we have to remember Pittsburgh's offense still isn't a polished product, especially Big Ben. I'm not fully confident in their defense. And then also on offense for Seattle, Marshawn Lattimore's been having a really good year, and he matches up pretty well with DK. And then also, I mean, Seattle's offense only really got going in the second half when they got the run game involved, and we were able to do things off that. But I think the Saints are just a better run defense than Pittsburgh. Right. And I think they have a more talented secondary, at least in terms of corners. So, it's just all that. And then, like we mentioned with the offense, getting extra time, another, more time for Jameis to get antiquated with the system and what they want to do. So, I'm going New Orleans as well. Sorry, Seattle, but I got New Orleans here. I really wish Russell Wilson was here because this game would be probably way more interesting. But it is what it is. And that is that. So that is